Hi, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome to Lead Your Movement. I'm Angelique Rewers, CEO and founder of The Corporate Agent, where we are the leaders in helping experts to win lucrative corporate clients. And this is our weekly show, Lead Your Movement, where we speak to business executives, entrepreneurs, and other mission makers who are using their business platforms in order to affect positive change in the world. If you're joining us live, a special warm welcome to you. And I just want to encourage you to participate in today's show. Be sure to ask your questions and share your comments throughout the episode. And I have no doubt as we get into the meat of today's discussion that you will certainly have a lot of questions. Just a couple of quick programming notes. If you're not already, make sure that you are subscribed to our channel on YouTube, which you can find under Angelique Grewers. And make sure you're also following me on Clubhouse at Angelique Grewers, where we take the discussions even deeper. All right, so let's get into today's episode. Now, a lot of you in our community are folks who are working in the people space. You have consulting firms, coaching firms, training firms, your keynote speakers, your HR consulting firms, your quality assurance firms. All the things that you're doing start and end with the people inside of organizations that are driving those missions forward. And so, as part of your work, you no doubt utilize assessments in your business. And that's why we wanted to invite to our show today Rick Bowers, who is the president and resident visionary at TTI Success Insights. His role there is to ensure that the company remains an industry thought leader of today while positioning the company for steady growth in the future. A dedicated and driven member of TTI SI since 1988, Rick has helped deliver assessments globally, expanding TTSI, excuse me, alphabet soup today. TTI SI's reach to 90 countries and 40 languages. A key architect behind Trimetrics HD and the 12 driving forces, Rick has introduced TTI SI's tools and trained master distributors, value added associates, and clients in more than 30 countries on 6 continents. Rick is an active member of the Hartman Institute's board, which pursues the ongoing study of axiology and is the ambassador of conscious capitalism. So, with all of that, I welcome to the show today Rick Bowers, president of TTI Success Insights. Rick, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
So, right off the bat, the question of the hour is, what movement are you leading?
Being in the people space, as you described, we've really focused on a movement called People First, and this is probably about 3 years that we've been talking about it. And I think people are really the lifeblood of organizations, and so it's such a critical piece to understand the people that you have in your organization, the people that are showing up every day, whether it's virtually or in person, to do the things that make the organizations tick.
And I would say, would you agree that people are also one of, I think, the most complex piece of an organization? I mean, I feel like we've made so many strides in IT and in data,
Mhm.
getting our arms around big data. But when it comes to organizations achieving what they want to achieve, if they can't get their folks moving in the right direction and utilizing their strengths, then it really doesn't matter what the technology is. At the end of the day, it's the people.
Exactly. And for years we've always said computers and TVs and electronics and tools and everything you have come with an operator's manual, but people don't. And so that's where the assessments come into play. And depending if you want to know about how they like to do what they do or why they're motivated to do this or their reactions or their skills, we give you the operator's manual for those employees to get you up to speed. And so sometimes in an onboarding process, it may take 6 months to really start clicking. But once you've gone through the assessment process and really use that as an operation manual, how to communicate, what motivates the person, how can I create a space where the engagement will be high, that onboarding process now becomes very quick.
So let's talk. You're mentioning assessments. For those who are not familiar with TTISI, walk us through the crux of what your organization does, who you do it for, the types of people that you work with, who partner with you as either these master distributors or these strategic resellers. Give us sort of the 411 on your organization.
Yeah, really, it's the kind of why we exist is TTI Success Insights. We exist to reveal human potential, and we do that through a series of assessments to really help create the self-awareness, awareness of others, and awareness of how you fit into your organization. We do this by we've been the architect, as you mentioned earlier, of all of our own tools. We've used some common science that's out there, and then taken it to the next level. That's really what I feel our greatest strength is to be able to create the best assessment to give us the most accurate information, and then write statements that really resonate with the people that are utilizing the reports. And we sell that through a network of coaches and consultants and trainers and speakers, and all of the lists that you just mentioned in terms of your network and the people that are listening. So I think this is a great connection, because it's there, people are everywhere, and people are, like I said, everything we do is people driven. And so how can we help reveal that human potential, release it into the organization so the organization can recognize the organizational potential. So it all starts with just that self-awareness of what do I have to offer, and am I doing the things that fit, or am I stretching to kind of fit into this environment where I'm not natural.
I love everything that you're saying about this, especially now with what's going on in the marketplace. I mentioned in your bio that you've been with TTI SI since 1988, but in the last 10 years, we've seen just an explosion of interest in the people space. In fact, a couple of our
Mhm.
clients who are here live with us now, Jan and Eva and others, are working in that people space, and it really has blossomed. And
Mhm.
then you add in sort of the younger generations that are looking at work through a very different lens than, say, the baby boomers.
Mhm.
But then last year happened, 2020
Yeah.
happened, and everything changed. What have you seen from the cockpit of your organization in terms of what the stressors are right now for organizations around people?
I think there's a lot of things, and one is a little bit of fear, and the fear is the unknown, because a lot of organizations, probably most organizations, their people are still remote, or at least a percentage of them are remote. And as a business owner and a leader in an organization, what are they actually doing when they're not in the office? We don't know for sure. Are they as productive as they can be? And sometimes they're more productive than they were in the office, because they're not having that stress of driving and the commute and all of that. So sometimes it's better, but sometimes there's just that unknown. So that's a fear, and I think there's definitely culture shifts that are happening. And I think one of the reasons for that is, as you onboard new people and they don't ever come to the office, how do they really feel the culture and the interaction and kind of those pieces? So cultural shifts are happening. Another thing, I think jobs are shifting, and so organizations really have to keep up with that and say, is job A still job A, or is now job A B, C, and D combined, and those kinds of things, because we have sometimes more employees, sometimes less employees, and we're having to do the same amount in those circumstances.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're bringing up the onboarding piece, and of course, there's the offboarding too. We know a
Mhm.
couple of huge organizations, Fortune 100s, right now that we have contacts inside of that are quietly going through reorgs.
Mhm.
Now that we're sort of on the tail end of the pandemic, they're going through those reorgs. But we also have been talking to some vice presidents inside of some large companies that are saying, it's really interesting. The onboarding piece has been so hard for us because we can always ship a packet of papers to folks. We can transition all of our forms online finally.
Mhm.
But getting people into the culture of the company and really understanding how to help those new employees be successful in
Mhm.
this environment has been a little tricky. What are some of the things that you're saying to your ecosystem about how to leverage assessments to help with some of these issues in terms of keeping people productive, helping them acclimate, make sure that they're able to thrive in this very odd environment? What is some of that guidance that you all are giving to your ecosystem?
It's been a little bit of a shift. I mentioned the people first in the beginning, and if you think about the word people and you take each of the letters, people is the first P, and do you have the right people, and are they in the right positions? It's kind of the the right people on the bus and are they in the right seats. But then if you go to the E, most people think about engagement, but engagement isn't something that you can just add. It's something that happens. And so employee experience is really that next one. So what kind of employee experience were you having in the office? And now what type of experience are they having at home? Do they have kids running around? Are there grandparents, the dogs, the deliveries when everybody starts barking and then you have to like freeze your or shut your mute really quick. And so there's a lot of stress there. So what's that employee experience? What can you do as an employer to help that? What are the opportunities for the employees? Do they understand the purpose of their work? How is leadership interacting with the employees? And all of that is going to lead to that engagement. And I think the engagement piece is something that the more we can keep that at a high level, the more the productivity will stay there, the less you'll have to worry about are they getting their job done on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all of that shifts. You talked about that environment yesterday. My team and I, we were on a call with one of our vendors, pretty big company. They're about 300 employees, and we're setting up a pretty big experience this summer for a group of our clients. And it was really interesting because one of the men who was on the Zoom meeting with us, he was also on baby duty, and so he had his kind of baby monitor there and he was, having to run in for the baby and then come back. And I will say one of the things I really like about this environment is we're really getting to see the humanity again in the
Mhm.
workforce. There's sort of a level playing field. Literally, back in my corporate days, I was in charge of financial communications for a huge company, and I would have to go all the way up to that in the ivory tower to the top floor to speak to the executives. And in a way, this sort of flattening this year or this past year, Rick, has been sort of interesting. We're all literally on the same level in our home
Yeah.
offices, and it's really changed the dynamics a bit. What are some of the assessments that you recommend to consultants and coaches and trainers right now in this environment specifically? Like a lot of folks use DISC, which is great. I love that one, but that's not the only assessment
Yeah.
that you recommend to your community.
Yeah, just to back up a little bit, back in March when everybody kind of went on lockdown and we all went remote, one of the things that we did was we created a free work from home assessment. So it's based on DISC, as you just mentioned, but it gives you kind of some working from home tips and also gives you a little bit about what is your communication style so you can kind of share it when you're not in the same room and those kinds of things. So that's available on our website as well for all of your viewers for free. But then our follow up to that was okay, what's going to happen when everybody starts transitioning back? And in April and May, we thought the transition would happen sooner than it is happening. But so we were like, okay, well, we need a transition report, but that's not a very sexy title. So we came up with the engagement report, and this is based on DISC and it's based on our driving forces, which is kind of what motivates a person or the how and the why of the person. And it goes through a lot of the different factors that we mentioned about in the people first movement, but it gives you that not only operation manual for the person, but now it's an operation manual of how to help with the engagement for the individuals. And so that was something that we launched in August. And we're really excited about what that report can do for organizations.
That's incredible. And that's on your website. I saw that yesterday. So it's
Mhm.
right there when you go
Yeah.
straight to the homepage for those of you who go to ttisi.com. So, it's interesting. I think we all did feel that we would come out of this faster than we have. But in the
Mhm.
last 48 hours, there's been who knows, because I know, and I'm not a public health expert. This is all purely from a business perspective that we're having this conversation, but it's been sort of interesting the last 48 hours. Target came out with their earnings from 2020, which really just blew everybody away. It was their largest year ever by a
Mhm.
mile, even over the last 6 years. So some organizations are actually doing very, very well. And I think
Mhm.
that piece of it is going to start coming out as to sort of who the winners were last year. Then you have, the acceleration of the timeline, at least here in the United States, of the White House saying, look, we're accelerating vaccines. So, we're saying not everyone will be vaccinated by the end of May, but they're going to be here. And then right on the heels of that, you have major universities starting to come out saying not only are they going to bring students back fully in the fall, but that football, for example, stadiums will be full. We saw that out of Alabama and Tennessee yesterday. So you
Mhm.
have this sort of confluence of things coming back, and it does feel like it's going to start to accelerate rather quickly. What do you think some of the big people challenges will be as this starts? Because every single CEO and top executive I've talked to from the top 1,000 companies, Rick, has said it was actually easier to send everyone home than it's going to be to
Mhm.
kind of recover from this and move people back and reorganize people. And what do you think some of those challenges are going to be?
I think it's going to be tough to get people to come back, and there's going to be enough companies out there that are willing to stay remote that they're going to draw those people across. And so this company jumping from company to company, I think is going to start happening again. Right now, and over the last 6 months, most of those high level positions and the top talent, they're not willing to make a jump because they don't want to come into a company and be at the bottom, the last one in kind of place. So it's been hard for us, at least in Arizona. It's been hard for us to hire that top quality talent. We've had positions open for months at a time, and so it's tough. So I think the transition is going to be a little bit of, yeah, I want to keep working for you, but I want to work remote. And so that's, I think, going to be something we're really going to have to focus on as business owners of what can we do to create a hybrid of that. Is there, okay, we need you in the office a couple days a week, or we really are going to create incentives for you to be in person if that's what's necessary. So I think that's something we really have to understand, and you're going to have to understand what's the makeup of that person, and what are those pieces that you can use to, as I mentioned, the engagement and the incentives, and really create that experience that they're looking for with their life, because they don't want to get back into the car and sit in front of the windshield for an hour each way every day.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that. I read an article the other day about the new commute and how people are using that time that they used to commute to go run or walk or ride a bike for that
Yeah.
exact amount of time and then circle back. And I thought, what a healthy way to sort of,
Yeah.
adopt that time. I have to give you a shout out from Lisa Ruherick, who, by the way, is the CEO of the RFP Success Company, and she mentioned, Rick, that the work from home assessment has been great for us, and the stress quotient assessment has also been great. And that's interesting. So Lisa's in the RFP. I happen to know Lisa. Her company is the leading experts in helping folks respond to RFPs in the
Okay.
market. And so, here she's also using assessments in her business. I think your last answer just pointed out a gold mine for consultants and coaches and trainers and
Mhm.
other experts in terms of helping organizations now adjust to a hybrid model. If folks wanted to add assessments to their business model and start incorporating these into what they're doing, what is the best way for them to go about doing that? And then how do they work with TTISI on that?
I'll answer the second part first. Is that just to our website, there's a place for more information, and then we'll follow up within 24 hours and make sure that they get the information, and kind of what are the processes to work with us. But I think assessments in their business is an interesting thing. But we're an assessment company, and whenever we have our new boot camps come in once a month, I typically say, guys, we're an assessment company, but nobody wants to buy an assessment. And I think that's really true for organizations. They're not out looking for assessments. They're looking for solutions. And so these are just tools in a toolbox, just like a carpenter would have in his or her toolbox to build cabinetry. They don't want to know what kind of hammer you have. They want to know what kind of solution you're providing. And so that's really one of the focuses, is like, these are tools to help you be successful. We want to help you reveal human potential. You are going to release that human potential, and help organizations recognize that potential. So that's that R3 methodology. Um, but the assessment tools are really what's going to give you the information. It's your consultant notes, so to speak. It's really that expertise that will give you the credibility with your clients.
Do you think that there is still a question in the mind of leaders and of mid-sized and large organizations today? Um, in terms of the ROI of investing in developing their people, having a user's manual of their people, of proactively shaping their culture. Do you see that there's still a question in people's minds based on the conversations you have? Or do you feel like, look, at this point, if you don't get it, you're just never going to?
It's definitely progressing in the right direction. There was a time where it was, well, we don't need to do that. We've been hiring people for years and we can continue to do it the same way. But I think now the cost of a hiring mistake, if you're using assessments, it really reduces that. Being able to communicate with your teams, taking them up to the next level. More and more organizations are saying we need to have some external tool to help us with this so that we are competitive, because the market is so competitive, no matter what industry you're in. You can't afford to hire the wrong person or mismanage somebody and have them leave. All of those things are really a detriment to the bottom line. And so assessments are a great investment in your human capital or in the people that are driving your business.
It still astonishes me that sometimes I feel like the senior leaders in organizations understand that, and then how it doesn't get executed inside of an organization. Recently, I happen to know someone who had been with a company for over 25 years, and they're going through a reorg, and he was a really valued individual. And as they went through the reorg, Rick, what they didn't do was they didn't do any new assessments on folks. They didn't even
Mhm.
really, frankly, look at old assessments, let alone do new assessments
Yeah.
and say, where are the 12 driving forces, for example? What
Mhm.
motivates and drives these individuals and really
Mhm.
fires them up? And so it just seems to me that that is a critical assessment right now as organizations reorg and decide where to move people, especially with supply chains and business markets having changed so much. We know that in the the B2B space, especially in sort of commercial engineering and manufacturing, the buying decisions have changed. The drivers of the sales have changed. Is that talk a little bit more about that assessment, because it just seems to me like understanding where to put people would start with not just their communication styles or
Mhm.
their stress quotient, but with what's really going to drive that person to contribute to the organization in a great way.
Yeah, it's definitely almost an insurance policy or a research tool for you. And I've always said that an interview process, whether it's the first time getting hired or you're applying for another internal job, is a little bit like dating behavior. You're always on your best behavior. You're trying to impress the other person, those kinds of things. And then as you get into the job, maybe it's something that's actually not in your skill set or something that's a little bit over your head, and so you're really struggling. Or so all of those factors are going to cause frustration, which leads to disengagement. And as the engagement levels go down, so do the productivity levels. So really, it's almost an insurance policy to make sure you made the right choice in that process versus just going with your gut reaction or basing it on just an interview or a resume, because we know those can be manipulated. And it's a lot, assessments give you a lot more accurate information about what's really going on with the person.
That's sort of golden marketing language. I just want to point out what you just said. For those of you listening, Rick just gave you some gold language to use in your co-creation conversations with your potential clients. So let's talk a little brass tacks for a second. Because of the pandemic, we moved our annual conference virtual. You did as well.
Mhm.
Your R3 conference moved virtual. I had the honor of speaking there. So thank you for that. It was an incredible group of individuals. What was that like for your organization, and what were some of your big ahas out of that?
A couple of things. One is it seemed like it was less preparation time as opposed to we used to do it in person, and it was about a 4 day show with about 500 or 600 people. And I mean, you worked and worked to make sure that everything was perfect. And in today's world of Zoom, it's a lot less stressful because it can be just kind of conversational versus very production oriented and those kinds of things. So that was great. We didn't really know what to expect in terms of numbers. We have a large network, and they really like the interaction time, and then they call each other friends as opposed to associates and that kind of thing. We would always say you'll see more handshakes than hugs at our conferences, or I mean hugs than handshakes. Sorry, I said that backwards. And so we have a very interesting network from that standpoint. But we had about 200 people on the virtual event. We did it, we had one full day, and then we did several, like 1 or 2 breakout sessions per month leading up to it. And we've done 1 or 2 since. So it was just a way to spread it out to kind of respect everybody's time. Try not to burn them out on too much Zoom time, because we all are have the Zoom fatigue.
Yes.
And so there was a lot to it. We may try to do another mid-year one, something like that as well, so nobody wants to come to Arizona in the summertime, as you and I talked about earlier, because it's
Don't
120
say
degrees.
that.
So we would get people, we get 500 people in the winter, and we get 75 in the summer. So now I think we could do another event in the summer as well if we go virtual like this.
That's amazing. What Rick and I are having a little inside joke there, because when we were in the green room, I told him for about 4 straight years we had our Inside Edge conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the Fairmont Princess. It was always somewhere between 120 and 127 degrees, and we would say in our marketing it was the hottest event of the year, which our clients were not amused by. We have a couple of really great questions for you, Rick, that I want to make sure we get to. Svetlana is asking about the 12 driving forces. She says it sounds very intriguing. Is this a standalone assessment or part of another assessment?
The answer to that question is yes. It is a standalone assessment. So if you just want the why of an individual, it's available that way. It's also available as part of our Talent Insights series, which is behaviors and driving forces. So the how and the why. But it's a great tool. It was something that we came out with in 2015 as a kind of a next level, next generation. But it really takes those motivators and say, which end of the continuum are you on? So 6 continuums, 12 different descriptors, and it really says these are my primary driving forces. These are some of my situational ones, and these are the few things that I'm very indifferent about or may cause me frustration. So as you kind of know what's driving the individual, you can position your conversations and incentives, or giving someone a chance to go to a seminar and learn is more important than a raise for some people. Being able to help people is more important than having control or a big title. So there's just different things that you can learn about the people that you're working with that make it so valuable.
I love that. And then Amina says, how's emotional intelligence as an assessment in terms of evaluating the level of productivity of an employee?
EQ is something that's really hot for us. We've really had a lot of growth with that tool in the last 12 months during this time. People being self-aware, being able to self-regulate, and then on the other side of that, it's the socially aware and socially regulate. And so people may have been good sitting across a conference table understanding what's going on in the room, but when you're across the video camera now with 12 or 15 people, do you really understand what's still going on? So that's that social regulation, social awareness. And we also measure motivation from an internal standpoint, as opposed to driving forces is that external standpoint. So are the carrots there? If there's no carrots, do you have a drive inside to do that? And so it's really critical to understanding, all right, I'm self-aware and I can regulate myself so I don't get frustrated and make bad decisions, leads to productivity. But just really being able to understand the people I'm working with is also a productivity piece. So it is going to help with productivity.
Amazing. And then Eva, who's joining us, I want to say, Eva, you're going to kill me if I get this wrong, all the way from Sweden. And Eva's wondering if you can talk a little bit about how these two assessments, both the emotional intelligence side and also especially the 12 driving forces, how is this of value to an organization? What are some of the ways they can really mobilize on this information once they have it? What is some of sort of the actionable things that can come out of it?
Well, with 12 driving forces, as I mentioned, it's something that helps you uh, position your compensation or your incentives or the type of work that the person is doing. are they in the right seat on the bus in terms of what they're best at? So are they are their motivation or their motivators being satisfied on the job or off the job? So that's really kind of a true test to, are they in the right role, and how do I drive them, or how do I put them in a position where they will drive themselves for success? On the EQ side, it's kind of the same thing. It's, are they able to be aware of themselves, and are they able to control themselves, or are they going to just fly off the handle quickly and get angry? And so, as we know, the different behavioral styles and different pieces, um, in terms of driving forces, or they're just, their reaction is critical. Someone that's a very quick to anger person and they have low emotional intelligence is going to be even more detrimental to an organization versus someone who behaviorally may be quick to anger, but their emotional intelligence is very high. They're still going to control that. So those are just a few ways that you could use it within the organization.
As I listen to you say that, all I can think about right now is that when you add to if we went back in time a year and a half
Mhm,
ago and we had sort of a baseline of how people operated, where they were from an emotional intelligence standpoint, their internal motivators, etc., and how we were operating, and there were obviously some challenges inside of organizations already around how people were showing up, communicating, handling certain stressors, and then we've just gone through a pressure cooker
mhm,
of what's going to end up being 18 to 24 months by the time we start to come out of all this. You just have to think how critical it is to bring these tools to the forefront for
mhm,
organizations, and
yeah,
to really give people the tools to deal with their fatigue, their emotional fatigue, their physical fatigue,
mhm,
right? The stressors they've been dealing with, and then
yeah,
all the change that's coming. I mean, I would imagine a big topic of conversation amongst you and your team, and your ecosystem at large, Rick, would just be the amount of change that's still yet to come.
mhm. Yeah, and changes happening all around, and changes happening with the people. We've always trained our consultants that your behaviors and your driving forces really don't change much over your lifetime, unless there's a significant emotional event like a death in the family, a marriage, a baby, even something simple as graduating from the university. But we're all living through a significant emotional event. So are your employees, are your people the same as they were 18 months ago as they are now? And so that's why it's important to not only assess in the first place, but reassess to make sure you're communicating in the same, in the way that they want to be communicated with, because maybe there was a shift in their behavior and now you need to present things a little different to them. So not only all the changes you mentioned, but the changes internally with the people may or may not be happening. We are starting in our research to see a little bit of a shift in some of our percentages.
You literally just provided, as we're kind of coming to the end of the interview here, really $1 million sort of business opportunity for coaches and consultants. Because what you're saying is, look, you can't assume that
Mhm,
because people were sort of one way as a leader or an individual contributor late 2019, that what's motivating them, driving them, sort of how they're going to show up is going to be the same coming out of this.
right.
That was just a major aha for me
Mhm,
as you said that. And I hope all those of you who are listening, especially my velocity folks, I hope that you got what Rick just said there, because that is a major aha. You know, we spend a lot of time. I probably read, Rick, I'd say over 50 articles a day. I don't spend as much time reading books that were, took 2 years to make it to market. I'm someone who absorbs all the latest studies and the latest
mhm,
articles coming out. And I don't know that I've actually, of all of the articles that I've read, HBR, Gallup, New York Times, Fortune, Fast Company, what's coming out of SHRM and HR.com, et cetera. I don't know that I've actually heard someone really talk about sort of the internal change. We've talked about the internal change organizationally,
mhm,
the dynamics of the team, but that was really the first moment I've ever heard someone say, you really have to reassess your team, because this was a major life event for not one employee here or one employee there. And by the way, a lot of them there's already a prediction, some data showing we're going to have a lot of separations and divorces after
Mhm.
the pandemic. People are moving because of the pandemic. Families have both consolidated households and split households. So there's all these other life things that are happening on
Yes.
top of the pandemic. That is a whopper that you just
Yeah.
shared. Is there something I should have asked you that I didn't?
I don't think so. The only thing we didn't really talk a little bit of, we could talk a little bit about would be the fact that jobs are shifting too. We
Ah,
do have jobs assessments. One of the things that we've always said is if the job could talk, what would it say? What would it ask for? What would it tell you that it needs to be the most successful? So there are job tools available as well to kind of help you understand what are the key accountabilities, key performance indicators for the job too. So
what
just
are
a
some of
lot
the
of
can you
resources.
are they what are do you have names of those assessments? Because I do think that would be of incredible interest to our global community at large. So say more about that. Say more about how the jobs are changing and those assessments.
I think the jobs are changing because sometimes we have, as I mentioned, less employees or more employees, and we have the same potential demand. Or if our business went down for an unfortunate reason, like the last 12 months, where we've had to lay some people off, but we still have the same amount of steps in the process, and so people are having to do more things. And so assessing the job and saying what really will make this job the most efficient, and do we have the right person in there, so that job matching, the job fit is a critical piece to this. And in terms of the tools, nothing real fancy in terms of the names. We have a trimetric series for people, we have a trimetric series for the job side, so it's just a different set of questions that you respond. And the best way to respond is after you go through a benchmarking process where you get some key stakeholders together that truly understand the job. You go through a couple brainstorming sessions with some processes that we have, and then from there you answer an assessment, and it'll give you actually what the graphs so you're looking for. So here's the person that you're looking to hire, and here's what the job requires. Do they match? Are they very far apart? Is it something we can train them on, or is it something that they're going to struggle in the position? So
Wow.
lots of opportunities with the job side as well as with the people side.
Absolutely incredible. Your organization is literally a treasure trove of tools for folks who are change agents inside of these organizations. You are welcome to come speak to my community
Okay.
anytime that you want to, Rick, because the tools that you're providing just allow them to affect greater change inside of these organizations, greater, longer lasting
Mhm.
transformation. Your entire portfolio is amazing. Uh, Folks, I assume, should go to your website if they
Mhm.
want to know more about you. But what specifically, when they go to ttisi.com, what would you like them to do and to look at and to engage with?
If you right at the top of the site, you'll see the new engagement report, so you can learn a little bit more about that. If you scroll down just a touch, it's the free working from home report. All the way at the bottom of the first page will be all of our social channels. Also at the top, you'll see why TTI, and on that page, there's a quick video that you can kind of learn a little bit about what we do, maybe 90 seconds in that. And the other one that might be interesting to certain people and certain organizations is under resources, there's all of our research. And so we have a ton of white papers, peer reviewed papers, technical manuals, and all of that. So depending on what you're looking for, there's a little bit of everything there.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm so honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to talk to our community about everything that you have going on. I certainly look forward to your next conference, whether it's in person or virtual. I'm certainly looking forward to taking advantage of that and all the information that you all share. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
being here, Rick. And I just want to encourage everyone to go to ttisi.com. And really, this has been so incredible. Thank you, Svetlana. She just said this is really insightful. And so, just lots of love for you, Rick, in our chat
great.
today for all this great information. So, thank you so much.
Yes, of course. It was great to be on, and I look forward to coming back at some point.
Awesome. We'd love to have you. All right, everybody, as we wrap up today, just a couple of quick programming notes. We will be back live at 1 p.m. Eastern next week with the president of an association that, boy, when you think about the impact of this pandemic on business owners and experts in the field, I would say this association, probably more than any other, really saw the brunt of the impact of the pandemic, but helped their members all over the country to make a pivot and keep going. And they're really having their members poised for the future. So, an amazing interview is coming your way next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So, if you are a self employed expert or a small business owner, I highly encourage you to be here and bring your questions like you did today. Don't forget to connect with me on both Clubhouse and Instagram at Angelique Brewers, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we will see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. live.